Millions of Jews around the world still observing the fast of Tisha B'Av, which will end soon. This is known as the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. It is a fast day, and it marks the date that Jews believe both holy temples in Jerusalem were destroyed. It's also a date Jews believe is destined for tragedy. It was on this date that other major calamities fell, from the Crusades dating to modern times, including the Holocaust. Last night in Jerusalem, hundreds of Jews prayed together and sang together, for now at least, putting aside any political differences. Today is also the first time since 1967 that Jews cannot freely congregate and pray at the Western Wall for this holiday, the holiest prayer site for Jews. There was a strict limit on worshipers in tiny capsules sectioned off along the Holy Plaza. And with me now for more on this holiday is Rabbi Ariel Konstantyn, the founding rabbi of the Tel Aviv International Synagogue. Rabbi, thank you so much for being with me. The translation in English is baseless hatred. Like there's this belief, a prominent belief among rabbis and scholars, that it was baseless hatred among Jews that led ultimately to the destruction of the Second Temple. That Jews were arguing among themselves, political arguments, meaningless disagreements, societal issues, and it cast Jew against Jew. It seems like there's a direct parallel to, even now, what we're seeing on the streets today.
Unfortunately true. I mean, the first temple was destroyed, according to the rabbis, primarily for idolatry, something that we don't really struggle with today. And the temple was rebuilt only 70 years later. But the second temple hasn't yet been built yet. Why not? We're still struggling with the same issue. The issue that was plaguing us back then, 2,000 years ago in 70 CE, plagues us today, and even more so in this year, where there's pitting people against with opposite political beliefs against each other, violent protests on both sides here in Israel, in the United States. It's horrifying to watch, and the lessons of the destruction of the Second Temple have yet to be learned.
Why do you think it is? I mean, you mentioned the issue of idolatry, really not an issue for the modern day Jewish people. I mean, you don't see, there's no golden calf statues really, and other gods statues around the street. But there is constant disagreement over politics, over societal disagreements, and it becomes really personal and bitter. And that's existed for thousands of years now. Why do you think that is, and how can the Jewish people perhaps turn to scripture or lessons to overcome that?
Well, that's exactly what the true purpose of Tisha B'Av is, to sit, to reflect, to sit together. I remember the very first time I saw the Western Wall was before my bar mitzvah on a trip to Israel, and it happened to be the night of Tisha B'Av. And what did I see there? Everyone was sitting together, and different circles, and Ashkenazi Jews and Sephardic Jews, and there was even behind the separation between men and women, a group of nuns and priests sitting together and reading the Book of Lamentation. This was a sense of unity, this sense of coming together, even in their differences of tradition and differences of origin. Everyone's saying, we have to do something about this, and we're going to mourn the loss of the temple, but not just mourn it. We're going to see what we can do to fix things. That sense of unity struck me, and that's, I think, a big piece that's missing today. People have to see respect in one another. They have to see the humanity of one another, no matter what. We can agree, we can disagree, but we need to disagree with peace in a peaceful way and respecting the humanity of one another. And that's the true message of Tisha B'Av.
I also want to note, of course, this year we're dealing with a global pandemic, a pandemic that's only getting worse, by the way, around the world and here in Israel. You had for Passover, for the Pesach Seder, families could not be together. There's a lingering and growing fear that also for the high holidays, in just a few weeks, families will not be able to freely get together for the high holidays again. And even now, for the first time in generations, at the Kotel, at the Western Wall, you could not go freely and pray. What do you make of the coronavirus pandemic and the lessons from this health crisis in this saddest day of the year?
There's no question it presents a huge challenge for all of us. Judaism in particular is a very communal religion. We want to be together. We're a very family religion. We want to be together. So that's part of our culture, part of our society. But yet it has presented new opportunities. I mean, with the technology that we have today, we can make sure that people aren't alone. We've been using at the Tel Aviv International Synagogue Zoom and Facebook Live as media that's actually connected an even wider audience to people around the world to what we're doing. I think a lot of communities around the world world are using that platform in order to maintain our connection. So while we might have to keep social distancing physically, that doesn't mean we need to distance ourselves emotionally and spiritually.
It's certainly difficult when you can't be with family, you can't go to the holiest prayer site for Jews, that you're allowed to pray freely if you want just to go. You can't be with your family. It presents just a feeling, I'd imagine, of solitude.
For sure. But you know, it also helps us realize what we have and the blessings we take for granted. Every year we're together with our family for Passover, together with our family for the high holidays, and suddenly we can't. And often we only take for granted things that I only appreciate things that until it's taken away, exactly. And here we have an opportunity to realize, while it's still there, we have our grandparents, we have family members that we love, and we can't be them. That longing, don't take it for granted. Enjoy that blessing.
And this date, the 9th of the month of Av, Tisha B'Av, this is a date, it's not just about the temples. I mean, really, this is a really bad day for the Jewish people historically. Even in modern times, everything is linked to this time. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a midrash that tells the story about the sin of the spies. When the Jewish people were intending to enter the land of Israel, they sent in 12 representatives of each tribe to see the land and come back with a report. Moses was very hopeful that the people would come back with a positive report and an excitement and enthusiasm to enter the land of Israel. However, 10 of the 12 came back with a negative report saying there's no way we can conquer the land, and they cried for no reason. They lacked faith in God to be able to enter the land and take possession. And for that, God said, according to the Midrash, you cried for no reason, crocodile tears, for lacking that faith. You'll cry for good reason in the future. So the destruction of the first and the second temple, both sending us into exile for not appreciating the land of Israel and for the sin of baseless hatred, and multiple expulsions throughout the exile. 1290, the expulsion from England took place. 1306, the expulsion from France. 1492, expulsion from Spain. The deportation of the Warsaw Ghetto, 1942. Again and again, these are consequences of this exile, of not having the faith in God, not having the appreciation for the land of Israel, and not respecting one another.
Really important discussion. Rabbi, thank you so much for being with us here in the program. Great to have you.
Thank you.